Well, how are you?
Yeah, I don't know any of them. Yeah.
Good afternoon, I'll go ahead and official call to order. Can I go ahead and for the governing board meeting May 9th? I ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would like to remind those members of the public that are joining us via teleconference to please select your preferred listening language using the interpretation at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that members Lawson, Reamer, Sanchez, and Vargas have notified us that they will be absent from today's proceedings. All remaining board members are participating in person. With that, Member Bertha Garcia.
Present.
Member Bush.
Here.
Member Elo Rivera. Member Gloria.
Here.
Member Gomez.
Here.
Member Martinez.
Here.
Member Medina. Here. Chair Shu.
Here. We'll go on to non-agendized public comment. I would ask clerk to provide instructions on how to provide public testimony.
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please go ahead and approach the podium at this time. We have one speaker, Mr. Javier. And I'm sorry, we have two speakers, Mr. Cesar Javier and Ms. Harita Javier. I'll call you individually, so we'll have you come first, Mr. Javier.
She needs.
Okay.
Walker.
You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
That's in Tagalog.
Please use the timer that will be on the screen. Please use the timer that will be on the screen. You'll have 3 minutes. Right here. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. You can begin when you're ready. When you begin, the timer will start. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Rita A. Javier, senior vulnerable citizen, taxpayer of medical existing condition. We, the residents of Streamview Drive, Limona Avenue, and the street and the General Choice Street.
No. Thank you for being present, Honorable Councilor Rivera. And Honorable Ted Gloria, the son of a governor.
The business?
Yes.
The business is sole proprietorship in non-metallic mineral product known as pottery, ceramics, and kiln furnace. Operation situated at 5238 Streamview Drive, San Diego, California, 92105, and has been operating since 1984. Science and research studies explains that claim mixed with chemicals such as lead, silica, asbestos when burned, heated and reheated, baked and rebaked, wood or gas fuel generate toxic gases, potentially impacted our air we all breathe. It is declared hazards to our health, safety, and public welfare. Inhaling or even ingesting fumes or airborne chemical particulates or pollutants result to sneezing, coughing, irritant to the eyes, dizziness, unusual headaches, unusual heart palpitation. These health issues were experienced by neighbors and were hospitalized. Continued exposure to poison gases may lead to asthma and other respiratory health issues, worst lung cancer.
Hurry up, you have 30 seconds.
Now that COVID-19 is gone, we're emotionally being vulnerable, especially seniors with existing medical conditions, and children will continue to persist and prevail. We therefore seek united stand for the policy change and abate the ceramics industrial business activity threatening our well-being and
Stop. I am
Thank
the
you.
son of a soldier who fought.
Mr. Javier, please state your name for the record before you begin.
I thought I am already popular. They don't want to hear my name. Cesar Javier, a retired 30 days emergency teacher. San Diego Unified School District, elementary, middle, high school. Now I'm going to teach a lawyer, an honorable mayor who is a son of a gardener. By the way, I am also a son of a soldier who fought in Korea and Vietnam and other wars. I am the son, now I am a soldier of the Air Pollution Control District as declared by Mom Forbes. And we declare ourselves as community volunteer. Westbound, Cholas Creek, District 9, San Diego City. Hear me, Honorable Mayor. We just came from the public hearing at the Venerable Hall of Justice. Oh, Council Chamber, not the whole chamber. The culprit we found out is the rule, Municipal Code Ruling 11. It's a code, it's a law. Accepting ceramic kiln from anything. You can build there, you can build up there, you can do the operation anytime, at your own version, at your own free will, without regulatory standard. The owner went to the Treasury Office, our city, Honorable Mayor, paying $38 per year, a license to kill, not James Bond. $3 a month to poison us. That's the metaphor. I define corruption as, you can Google that, Honorable Rivera, a lawyer. What is corruption? We are corrupting the belief of our community. We are divided. Immigrants from Africa, immigrants from Asia, immigrants from Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, name it. We are all there. At this time, state and condition. Who else will tell you? This room is not enough if they have the ability to come here. They are earning money to be peaceful, loving citizens. Where are they? To give their voice, to offer their suggestion, to offer a solution. The kids have solutions. Honorable Rivera, I gave this to Honorable Lakaba, and he said to me, before the San Diego 350, I said it should be San Diego 360 because there's a full spear to give you this and to tell you of the environmental injustice in our community. It's been 2 years, sir. You are a member of the planning. I got this from the Trascan
Mr.
this
Javier,
morning.
your time is
Oh,
concluded.
story. It's a long story. For 40 years it's been there. Honorable Mayor, I am a son of a soldier. Honorable Rivera, I am a substitute teacher only. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. We're going to move on to approval of statement of proceedings and minutes from the March 14th meeting. So Madam Clerk, can you tell us the instructions for giving public testimony?
Thank you, Chair Shu. I apologize. Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item that are here in the conference room to please approach the podium at this time. Those members of the public that are joining us via teleconference, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that are provided on your Zoom screen. You may indicate that you wish to speak on this item using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised and no movement in the conference room, there are no members of the public wishing to address the board on this item.
Thank you. Do you have any comments or questions from my colleagues, fellow board members? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the proceedings from the March 14th meeting. Moved by
So,
Gomez
Second.
and second by Medina. All those in favor of approving the proceedings, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
I would say that I was not here.
If, we're going to just abstain, one abstention. Any other abstentions? No. So motion carries. Let's go on to the consent calendar. So Madam Clerk, can you give us instructions on writing public testimony consent?
I would like to note for the record that that motion passed with all board members who are present voting aye, with the exception of those members that are absent, members Lawson, Reamer, Sanchez, and Vargas, with member Martinez abstaining. Also, I'd like to note for the record that member Ila Rivera has joined the meeting. For the consent calendar, if there are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, please approach the podium at this time. If there are any members of the public that are joining us via teleconference that wish to address the board on this item, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or press star nine now to indicate that you wish to speak. Seeing no movement in the conference room and no hands raised online, there are no members of the public wishing to address the board on this.
Do you have any comments from my fellow colleagues on the consent calendar? If not, entertain a motion to move on the consent calendar. Move to approve, moved by Bush
Martinez second.
and seconded by Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And any abstentions? None.
With members Lawson, Reamer, Sanchez, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. So we'll move on to E1, adoption of the proposed amendments to Rule 40, permit and other fees for the year 2024-25. Madam Clerk, can you give us instructions on the testimony?
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask any members of the public that are joining us here in the conference room that wish to address the board on this item to please complete a speaker slip at this time. You can find them at the front table. For those members of the public that are joining us via teleconference, please utilize the instructions that are on your Zoom screen now. You may press the raise hand feature that is at the bottom of your Zoom screen or press star 9 now to indicate that you wish to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
I have my notes, staff presentations to be given by Michael Watt.
I'll be giving the staff presentation today, Chair Shu.
Thank you. Paula, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Shu and board members. I'm Paula Portis, Pollution Control Officer, giving a staff presentation today on Rule 40. Today's hearing is to consider adoption of proposed amendments to Rule 40 permit and other fees. Next slide, please. So during today's presentation, the following items are going to be covered. First, we'll talk about background information on the district's fiscal year 24-25 cost recovery efforts. Then we'll provide an overview of the amendments being proposed to Rule 40, and finally address the district's recommendations to the board. Next slide, please. Rule 40 sets the fees for the district permitting and other services such as inspections and source testing related to the implementation of the region-wide permitting and regulatory program for stationary sources of air pollution. Stationary sources encompass large industrial facilities such as power plants, small commercial establishments such as dry cleaners and gas stations, and asbestos renovation and demolition activities. The fees collected help to cover the costs associated with a wide range of services provided by the district that account for approximately 1/3 of our annual operating costs. So these different types of fees and services provided as a result are detailed on this slide. Initial application fees are used to fund evaluation of permit applications with fixed costs to ensure that new or modified equipment and emission units can operate within standards set by local, state, and federal clean air requirements. The district receives approximately 250 to 300 fixed fee applications annually. Renewal fees are paid by permitted facilities on an annual basis and are used to fund compliance verification services, including inspections, business assistance, and enforcement services to ensure that permitted facilities are operating in compliance with all requirements of their permits. Each permitted piece of equipment is inspected at least once a year, and some even more frequently, resulting in approximately 10,000 stationary source permit inspections every year. Source testing fees help to cover the costs of emission testing at facilities to verify that actual emissions meet permitted levels. The district conducts over 200 source tests annually. Asbestos fees fund the district's inspections of regulated renovation and demolition activities to ensure safe handling of asbestos-containing materials, as well as outreach and education efforts to inform contractors and property owners about these requirements. Over 1,000 renovation and demolition notices are submitted to the district each year. Hearing board fees are used to help cover the district's cost to support the hearing board's services to hear and decide on appeals from permit denials, application for variances from district rules and regulations, and abatement order requests. Time and material fees fund services that tend to have greater variation in costs and therefore do not have an established fixed fee. These can include a range of services such as permit application evaluation, health risk assessments and risk reduction plan review, and some source tests. And finally, processing fees fund the administrative activities required to support implementation of all of these services, such as invoicing for annual permit renewals, application intake and payment processing, and changes to equipment ownership and location. There are approximately 8,000 active permits renewed annually. Next slide, please. In July 2020, the state auditor issued their report, which identified that district stationary source fee-related expenses were not being fully recovered and included a recommendation to increase fees annually by the maximum percentage allowed until the district's revenue from fees is equal to the full cost of the program. In fiscal year 21-22, the district completed a cost recovery study, which provided a tool for understanding current service levels and the cost and demand for those services. We also held public hearings on the fiscal year 21-22 amendments to district fee rules, which were adopted by the board and implemented in January 2022. In fiscal years 2022 and 22-23 and 23-24, the district updated the cost recovery analysis to include the latest board adopted budget and staffing levels and workload information for each year. Public hearings were held on the fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24 amendments to district fee rules, which were adopted by the board and implemented in July 2022 and July 2023, respectively. Prior to the implementation of fee increases in January 2022, the district had not raised fees in 3 years. Prior fee updates were in 2019, 2018, and 2017. The district did not increase fees for 5 consecutive years from 2012 to 2016. Next slide, please. As part of the stakeholder engagement process for this proposed amendment to Rule 40, a public workshop was held in December 2023 to proactively seek input from stakeholders on the initial proposed updates to Rule 40, and the first public hearing on the proposed amendments took place on January 11, 2024. District staff engaged with commenters and stakeholders during and after the workshop and initial hearing, and a summary of comments and district responses and it is included in the staff report as part of the governing board package. The district also reached out to over 15,000 permit holders, stakeholders, and industry groups through direct mailings in English and Spanish, emails sent out to subscribers, and information about the workshop, public hearings, and committee meeting were posted on the district's website. Since the January hearing, district staff incorporated updates to the cost recovery model, and we have prepared an updated Rule 40 proposal, which I'll review in more detail in the coming slides. On April 25th, 2024, the district staff provided an update to the Planning and Policy Committee of this board on the proposed amendments to Rule 40. The PPC voted to recommend approval of the proposed amendments to the governing board. Today is thus the second public hearing to consider adoption of the proposed amendments to Rule 40. Next slide, please. As many individual permit renewal and asbestos B categories are approaching or exceeding 90% cost recovery, district staff determined that a comprehensive review of labor data was necessary to ensure that the district's fee structure fairly and accurately captures the actual cost for services provided. District staff incorporated labor data from the last 3 years into the cost recovery model so that the most recent inspection time assumptions were used to determine the appropriate fee recommendations. This analysis showed that there have been both increases and decreases in inspection duration for various permit types and asbestos notifications. There are several factors that can influence the time required to verify compliance at permitted sources, including streamlining processes, the enhanced expertise of district staff and regulated entities, regulatory changes, compliance determinations, and record keeping and reporting requirements. These fluctuations are particularly noticeable for less common industries or permit types where unique circumstances may impact inspection complexity and duration. Additionally, the number of permitted emission units and asbestos notifications reflected in the cost recovery model was updated to better reflect current annual workload trends and associated program costs. Next slide, please. The cost recovery analysis was updated to incorporate the revised workload and time estimate information for renewal and asbestos fees. The remainder of the proposal that was presented in January remains the same. Estimated current revenues are calculated based on the annual workload for each category. For example, the number of permit applications, renewal and asbestos inspections, source tests, etc. The existing fee amount for each category. These are then compared to the projected annual cost, which is calculated using that same workload information and the updated data on the time it takes to provide the service for each fee type. Based on the updated analysis, the district is currently providing a fee-related subsidy of approximately $1.7 million, or recovering approximately 87% of annual fee-related costs. It is important to stress that the fee categories above represent estimated revenue and costs for a range of services provided under each fee category and are not inclusive of other non-fee related components within a program. The annual cost is only reflective of fee-related support provided for those stationary source permitting and regulatory services and does not encompass the entire program. For example, the district has a mobile source inspection unit whose cost is not included in this calculation as that cost is not permit or fee related. Next slide, please. As a result of the updated analysis, the proposed amendments to Rule 40 have been updated since initially presented to the governing board on January 11th to better reflect current trends associated with these services. Adjustments were made to several proposed renewal and asbestos fees to account for the updated time assumptions. Proposed fees for permit types with reduced inspection times are being decreased, and proposed fees for permit types with increased inspection times are being adjusted upwards by a maximum of 15% or 10% for asbestos notifications. The revised proposal also includes consolidation or elimination of outdated initial application renewal fees, as well as various asbestos fees to allow for more streamlined fee schedule, and conversion of additional fixed initial application fees to time and material to account for variation in the level of effort more accurately. It also includes proposed language cleanups and clarifications, and changes to fee categories other than renewals and asbestos remain consistent with the proposal that was presented in January. These proposed updates and changes are reflected in the revised Rule 40 fee schedules that are posted on the district website as part of this item. Next slide, please. Although the increase in total revenue is limited due to small decreases in projected revenue in the renewal and asbestos fee categories, the district's total fee-related revenue is projected to increase to approximately $11.4 million annually under this revised proposal, which is in line with the revenue projection under the initial proposal presented in January. The proposed revenue increase continues the trend of reducing annual fee for service related estimated revenue deficits from $4 million in 2021 to approximately $1.3 million. Next slide, please. This slide shows the progress that we've been making. When the district first started this process in 2021, the overall fee for service cost recovery for stationary source permitting and regulatory activities was calculated at approximately 66%. Since then, the board's actions on fees have increased the district's estimated overall fee for service cost recovery percentage for its stationary source programs each year. This is the district's fourth year of conducting the analysis and update, and these proposed fiscal year 24-25 updates are projected to increase the overall cost recovery percentage to approximately 90%. The original study had estimated that it would take the district more than 5 years to get to maximum cost recovery, barring any operational and major cost changes. The district remains on track towards maximum cost recovery for services provided in the coming years and will continue to review annual revenue and cost fluctuations as part of each year's cost study to ensure that appropriate fee adjustments and program efficiencies are implemented to reach and maintain a level where fee-related stationary source program expenses can be fully recovered. Next slide, please. In conclusion, today's recommended action is for the board is to find that the requested action is exempt from CEQA and to adopt the resolution to amend Rule 40. If approved, amendments to the district's fees will become effective on July 1st, 2024. And these recommended actions will help to fund the district's commitments to advancing policies, programs, and services that achieve the mission to improve air quality, to protect public health, and support our vision of clean air for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And do we have any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Chair Shu. We have two members of the public that wish to address the board on this item. I would call forward Mr. Cesar Javier. You will have 3 minutes to address the board on this item. Please self-regulate your time using the timer that will be on the display screen. And
So,
please begin by stating your name for the record.
Cesar Javier, a substitute teacher. And to emphasize, following the principle of repetition and humor, metaphor, simile. And I presume that you are all in the elementary setting, and I am a new substitute teacher from Asia, Philippines. I support this item. However, I believe that there are more essential elements to solidify, become efficient and effective. That's what I learned in public administration. The book, Public Administration, authored by an American, possibly white American, venerable educator, the Thomasites. It says it must be efficient and also effective. Be sure it's always a solution to a problem. And finally, and adequate. Is it adequate? I say no, because in an increment of my knowledge, please, let us increase the fees of those bigger emitting industrial facilities and make the inspection, investigation, not annually, but as many times unannounced or announced. 1 year is not adequate. Please. The vision, therefore, must be reconciling, must be congruent, must be parallel, must be hitting the bullseye, not just limiting economic activities. No, that's the fault that I would like to include here. Slow down, take time, because the mission has to be accomplished effectively, efficiently. Do I mistake the time? Oh, 30 seconds. No exemptions, possibly, because this is a World War III kind of combat, and everybody should be involved. I myself declared community volunteer to help my councilor in our district. We are supportive to District 9. But those people there, oh, here again, we are being delayed by the talk of
Mr. Javier, your time's concluded.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Nicholas Balu. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record. Self-regulate your time using the timer that is on the screen.
All right, good afternoon, APCD board members, nice to see you all again, Nicolas Paul with the Environmental Health Coalition. Just wanted to make a quick comment, kind of building off of the spirit of Mr. Javier before me, and really urge or vocalize our support for this, his Rule 40 amendments. There, as Mr. Javier mentioned, there is some urgency with this item, and as Paula presented earlier, we've made a lot of progress so far. However, we are still subsidizing industry's asbestos and renewal fees at the tune of $1.3 million each year. And so we're making progress towards that. However, we need to continue to reach full cost recovery as quickly as possible. And so why is this important? We're gonna have a budget hearing later on today. These funds, these $1.3 million are actually currently being taken from the TMP funding that we have and receive on an annual basis from TMP registration renewal fees. That's funding that can be used to fund cleaner projects in San Diego County's most impacted neighborhoods that relate to mobile source emissions. That funding can also be used to address huge problems, particularly in the port side, like truck route enforcement. So again, we support this increase. I'm gonna keep it short. And yes, again, EHC supports this, and then we hope that you all move forward with the staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Are there any comments from any of my colleagues?
Yes, thank you staff for putting this together. We received this presentation. I answered some of my questions before in the finance committee meeting. But so one thing I forgot to follow up on, there was a consultant, I think, group that came before us about 2 meetings ago about the asbestos part of it. Mike Watts, I was looking around for him because I think he was the one that spoke to them on this issue. Just wanted to follow up on that piece if that got worked out or communicated. And I apologize, I should have brought this up earlier. There's something else that's going to ask you all.
No, that's fine, sure.
Member Bush, thank you for your question. So we did meet with the contractor subsequently, and they had some great suggestions on how to increase awareness as it relates to our asbestos program and potential health risks. So they came to our office and we went over, their suggestions. And we agree that there are opportunities to increase awareness as it relates to asbestos.
If I could just add, a lot of their concerns were to ensure a level playing field among businesses and entities that are doing that kind of work. And so we did have our compliance chief in that meeting to ensure that they understood how we enforce our asbestos rules and how we are very level playing field when we come to that. And so, like Miney said, there's definitely more that we can do outreach to make sure folks are aware of it, and we're committed to doing that.
Awesome. No, thank you all for doing that work and for working and communicating with industry on this. And I figured I was pretty sure that it did get resolved. Sometimes no news is good news. So, but really appreciate you guys reaching out to them, and I support the Senate.
Thank you. We're going to pause discussion for just a second because we missed one public comment from online.
We have one public comment, public commenter that is online that has their hand raised. I'm not sure if they still wish to speak, but Sterling Ross, if you would like to speak on this item, you may do so. Please unmute yourself. You may begin by stating your name for the record.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Sterling Ross. I work for SDG&E currently, formerly of the Air Pollution Control District. I noticed a significant increase in the source testing fees / production or prediction. Could you go into the details that surround that, please? And that is my only comment question.
Thank you. That concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any discussions from board members? Continued discussions? Comments?
I originally have a question, but, I just wanna see if there's an answer to public discussion.
Sure. Yes, the source test fees have been increased over the last 4 fee increases. We are basing that on the most recent labor data. Source test fees, we still have further to go in terms of recouping our full costs from that program. So we are anticipating future increases. I believe the current cost recovery percentage, if you have it, is around 70%. We can get that actual number. So we do anticipate that we're gonna need to continue to look at source test fees. But again, each year as we go through this cycle, we'll be updating it with current labor data and cost information. It's currently at 63%.
And if I remember correctly, when we were going through this process, that particular fee was the one that we started at a lower rate, right? Correct. We didn't do it as we could have, right? I just wanna share that, right? Yeah, and source task requirements are typically applicable to more complex operations. So it does take some time, and so the fees are established based on labor data, as Paula mentioned. And we do have all that data available, if anybody's interested in reviewing that. So, but essentially the fees are based on, the past 3 years of labor data. And, that's how we are proposing the fees for source tasks. Thank you, I appreciate that. And then my original question was gonna be more on, just, I know that there was a public comment period. Were there any comments that came through that period of time?
The only comment is the one that was included in the board packet.
Okay.
And beyond that, we haven't gotten any additional comments. We did meet separately with the Industrial Environmental Association leadership.
Yeah.
Last week, and didn't hear any additional feedback from them at that time. IEA did put in a support letter at the in preparation for the March hearing. But again, we have changed the proposal somewhat since that time.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, thank you, and definitely support this item, and I'm happy to make a motion. There's a need for one.
So we have a motion by Member Gomez, a second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Medina. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays and abstentions, none.
Thank you. With member Lawson, Reamer, Sanchez, and Vargas absent, that motion stands with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. We're going to go on to the 2023 Air Toxics Hotspot Program Annual Report for San Diego County and for the instructions for local government.
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask any members of the public that are joining us via conference to please use the instructions that are provided to you on the Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to speak on this item. You may use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by pressing *9. If there are any members here in the conference room that wish to address this item, please complete a speaker slip and submit it to us at this time. Your public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Okay, for staff presentation, we have Deputy Director Mahani Luther.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Once again, my name is Mayeli Luther. I am one of the deputy directors for the district overseeing compliance with engineering. State law requires air districts to prepare an annual report to convey the achievement under their air toxic hotspots program. We are here today to present the 2023 report. I would like to turn it to Mohsen Azemi, who's the chief of the engineering division, who is going to be presenting the report for your consideration and approval.
Thank you, Mayeni. Good afternoon, Governing Board Chair Shu and other board members. My name is Mohsen Nazemi and I'm Chief of the Engineering Division at the district. I have a short presentation on the 2023 air toxic hotspots report. Under the hotspots program, the district required to prepare an annual report, and this annual report was prepared to meet that requirement for calendar year 2023. And describes the critical actions that we completed and also accomplishments of this program since 2021. The draft of the 2023 air toxic hotspots report was released and posted on the district's website on March 7, 2024, and sent out via district's gov delivery subscription services, and public meeting was held on March 19, and the notice of this meeting was also sent out via social media, presented to the District Planning and Policy Committee on April 25th, 2024. Next slide, please. The California Air Toxic Hotspots Act was proposed under Assembly Bill 2588 that was passed into law in 1987. That's why sometimes it is referred to as the AB 2588 program. Under this program, the district evaluates potential health risks from toxic air contaminants that are emitted by stationary sources in San Diego County. Based on those potential health risks, the program requires the facilities to conduct a public notification to ensure the public's right to know, and facilities that create elevated health risks are required to implement risk reductions to reduce those health risks. Next slide, please. This slide is an illustration of how we can be exposed to air toxics emissions and potential health effects that may result. The primary exposure route is through air inhalation, which is breathing in chemical vapors or fine particles or dust. Another form of exposure is through ingestion, that's drinking or eating chemicals, contaminants, or having dust or soil put into our mouth through hand-to-mouth pathway. Kids do that a lot when they play out in the dirt. The third main exposure pathway is through dermal absorption, which is absorbing chemicals to the skin. Once we are exposed to these chemicals, the adverse health effects can be caused by different air toxics and can range from symptoms such as minor eye or throat irritation and headaches to more serious conditions such as cancer, birth defects, or damage to various organs. The nature and severity of the health effects vary by the type and quantity of the toxic pollutant and the duration of exposure and distance from the source, as well as the sensitivity of different individuals. Next slide, please. That is important to highlight that the requirements of this program, which are public notification and risk reduction, applies to stationary sources, which include factories or manufacturing plants, power plants, shipyards, landfills or sewage treatment plants, rock or asphalt plants, and other industrial, commercial, and governmental operations. Stationary sources do not include trains, trucks, ships, airplanes, and other type of mobile sources, and that's why they're referred to as stationary sources. Next slide, please. Under the state law, the district is required to prepare an annual report to discuss activities pertinent to the program. This slide shows some key actions the district completed in 2023. 120 emission inventories are completed for facilities subject to the AB 2588 program. And this is, of course, in addition to the other emission inventory work that the district completed. These inventories are very important as they quantify the toxic emissions from stationary sources and identify which sources can potentially create elevated health risks. Also, 8 health risk assessments were approved. Health risk assessments estimate in detail the potential negative health effects that sources of air pollution can create. And those health effects, again, can be mild and temporary or short-term or long-term for both cancer and non-cancer health effects. And the district also required 6 public notifications. Facilities that can potentially create elevated health impacts are required to notify the community that are impacted by those health effects. In addition to public notifications, 6 public meetings were held, more specifically discuss health impacts for those facilities. And finally, the district approved 6 risk reduction plans Facilities that can potentially create elevated health risk impacts are also required to submit a plan to the district on how the negative health effects can be reduced to an acceptable level. Next slide, please. One of the main benefits of this program is the risk reduction measures. This table lists information about the risk reduction plan the district approved in 2023. The plans were for shipyards, aerospace manufacturers, mineral industry, asphalt plants located in different communities as shown on the slide. Some of the risk reduction measures included increased control of emissions, changing a process to decrease emissions, removing equipment that releases a type of toxics that cause increased health risk. And of the six risk reduction plans approved by the district in 2023, 4 of them have fully been implemented and 2 have been partially implemented. Fully implemented means that even though they were approved last year, they've already reduced the risk below the level required by District Rule 1210. And partially implemented means the facilities have already started implementing the risk reduction measures and are on their way to full implementation. There were only 2 facilities, BAE and Pacific Ship Repair, that have partially implemented. BAE's risk reduction plan is for their 2017 emissions and has implemented an alternative method to welding for connecting pipes that has less or no toxic emissions. BAE has submitted a new health risk assessment for their 2021 emissions that was actually approved just this afternoon. And that one shows that they have reduced their health risk below the Rule 12 threshold for their 2021 emissions. And they're compiling the documentation to provide to the district in the next couple of weeks that shows they've implemented their risk reduction for 2017 as well. Pacific Ship Repair has already installed more efficient filtration system for their abrasive blasting operation and control systems for welding and demonstrated compliance for 2 out of the 3 welding type of controls. But due to the flooding that occurred earlier this year, couldn't complete this testing for the 3rd kind. And that's supposed to happen next month. These will be implemented as soon as possible. Next slide, please. The draft annual report was released for public review on March 7 and distributed via district staff delivery and posted on our website. On March 19, the district held a virtual public meeting to discuss the 2023 air toxic hotspots draft report. And the public meeting outreach was conducted in English and Spanish using the district's email subscription service, social media, and Nextdoor. And the public meeting was also conducted in English with simultaneous Spanish translation and is available on the district's YouTube channel. About 10 people attended the meeting and questions raised during the meeting were addressed at the meeting. On April 25th, the district presented a draft annual report to the board's planning and policy committee at their in-person meeting at the district, and the committee considered the report and unanimously recommended approval by the board. Next slide, please. This is an important slide. Besides the actions completed in 2023, we would like to take this opportunity to spotlight the accomplishments of the program since 2021, when this board amended District Rule 1210 to decrease the cancer risk threshold for risk reduction by a staggering tenfold and adopt other requirements to protect the public health. This rule change resulted in accomplishments presented on this slide. In addition to those 2 that were partially implemented, 11 additional risk reduction plans have been approved by the district and have been fully implemented by the facilities in compliance with District Rule 1210, meaning 11 facilities have reduced their risk to their neighbors, resulting in risk reduction and public health protection from elevated health risk for 1,629 residences. These are not number of people, these are actual addresses for homes, condos, or apartments, 1 public park, and 59 businesses. Again, 59 addresses for businesses. This isn't just about data or statistics, it's about the health and safety of our families, our neighbors, and our future generations. You can have the next slide, please. I would also like to point out opportunities for public engagement provided by the district for this program. The district has published an interactive mapping tool on our website showing facilities subject to this program, as well as CalEnviroScreen scores. CalEnviroScreen is a California Environmental Protection Agency system that identifies environmental justice areas, which represents a combined measure of pollution and a potential vulnerability of the population to the effects of environmental pollution. This map also shows the two environmental justice communities under Assembly Bill 617, the port side and the international border EJ communities, and the areas impacted by facilities with risks above the public notification thresholds. You can also see the web address and QR code for the district's interactive mapping tool on this slide. Next slide, please. In addition to the district's interactive tool on our website, the California Air Resources Board has also launched a mapping tool under its California Air Toxic Assessment, or CATA program. CATA assesses the statewide health risk associated with major toxic air pollutants, which include diesel particulates, heavy metals, and toxic volatile organic compounds emitted from all sources of air pollution, including stationary, mobile, and area sources. This is a picture from the CATA mapping tool showing San Diego County. On the left side, it shows the average county-wide cancer risk in the county in chances per million, as well as the breakdown by pollutant and source. You can also zoom in on smaller areas, and it will show you the average cancer risk within that area. On the right side, areas of higher cancer risk show up in darker colors. And you can also see the web address and QR code for this tool on the slide, which can take one straight for San Diego County information. Next slide, please. Public engagement is a key part of this program. On the district's website, you can see current and past public notifications, public meetings, and risk reduction plans. We also encourage members of the public to sign up for the district's email subscription service and follow us on social media. That's how they can get information about updates to this program. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the board considers and approve the final 2023 Air Toxic Hotspots Program Annual Report for San Diego County. And the last slide concludes the presentation for this, for your consideration and approval, and we're available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Let's see, do we have any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Chair Shu. We have two members of the public that have requested to speak on this item. I will call for Mr. Cesar Javier. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record and be sure to utilize the timer that is on the display.
Ginoong Cesar Javier. That's my Tagalog language. I, my wife, a lowest political unit, support this program. But please take time to study this. Take time to validate this. This program is good. But how come our planning groups in the entire city does not even mention about this kind of war? I've been attending so many planning and they were talking about, oh, they should know who we are. I do not like him to work with me. Sir, that's the feedback. City Heights Planning, they are not well informed of the mission, the vital mission for survival of this great republic. Why only prepare this report to the county? Report this to the state, report this to the federal, so we will have grants. We have monitorial. Oh, they are doing good. What good, sir? We're here to sharpen the blade. We are here in our humble presence. Believe me, if they know that there is hearing like this, a classroom like this will not be enough space. The virtual circuits would be jump, scum. Honorable Mayor, sir, that's the truth. We haven't felt since the mission. Quality air. That's the truth, sir. Honorable Rivera. If you cannot help us, how much more other members from the governing board? I have still 47. Now that we can locate the hot spot, please also locate the small spot, not just the big spot or the hot. Let's also try to study the cold spot, like Cold War. Let's know what's going on in the Cold War. And there is a Cold War. They are dividing us. The rule number 11, exempting, is dividing us. We are confused in our community. West Bank, Cholas Creek, District 9. Sir, from Mr. Bush. I think you're the relative of. Thank you. I am just trying to focus on something for you to discern. At my level, forgive my language. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nicolas Saul. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Nicolas Paul with the Environmental Health Coalition. He just wants to take the opportunity to comment and congratulate the Air Toxics team for all their work in this past year. And I made a similar comment during the policy and planning subcommittee meeting, but I think it's worth repeating. I think in our line of work, we talk a lot about how important it is to democratize information. And what I mean by that is like making the information meaningful for community to grasp and use as a tool to advocate for themselves. And I think for a lot of agencies, reports like this can become kind of like a seasonal ritual every year, kind of a checkbox that you kind of do and report out. But I really do believe that this report is getting to that democratizing information point that I made earlier. The EHC has provided a comment on this report. And I think a lot of the feedback has been incorporated to make it a meaningful document, including updates on the progress of a lot of these risk reduction plans. And we appreciate that kind of relationship, right? And we hope to continue to work with APCD and you all to address all the hotspots in our communities. In the portside communities, the communities that EHC works most in, we have a concentration of air toxic hotspots. We have 3 air toxic hotspots, all within 1.5 miles of one another. And so what that means is that there's an overlap of cancer risk for a lot of our residents. And so, again, we support this report, and again, congratulations to Miami and Wilson and the team. And we support the staff's recommendation to approve this annual report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions from our board members? Member Gomez.
Yeah, I have a question. In relation to the cancer risk reduction that we did earlier, is there a relationship to this analysis? Or how does that reflect here, if at all?
So, Member Gomez, you're referring to the risk reduction plans?
Yeah, is there a layer of there was a data point, I don't remember when, but we reduced the cancer risk,
The threshold.
the thresholds.
Exactly.
How is that? Is there a relationship to this?
Absolutely.
Can you
Yes.
speak a little bit on that? I'm just wondering what that looks like in terms of that act that you did.
Yes, and we certainly wanted to spotlight this accomplishment because after this board, amended Rule 1210 to reduce the threshold from 100 a million to 10 in a million, we are able to reduce cancer risk that impacted, you have the numbers there. We had a slide on that because we are really proud of this accomplishment. But it was over 1,000 addresses, residents, 59 businesses, 1 park, and
49 businesses, 1 park,
One
and
park.
1620.
yeah, 1629 addresses. So that's just addresses. So
It's like,
there are a lot of
We can go back to slide number 8.
so this accomplishment positively impacted a lot of different addresses by reducing the potential cancer risk that these addresses were previously exposed to.
And so those addresses would have been above the threshold prior, and now they're outside of those risk isolates because of the board's action to reduce that threshold.
that's interesting. Huh. That's huge.
That is huge, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you. That is that piece right there that I just really appreciate, the
Yeah.
1,629 homes and the park that folks are gonna be in less danger while they just breathing air, right? And this APCD does very technical work and it does it at scale, which even makes it more difficult at times to kind of really see the human impact. I think the thing that I appreciate more and more in being able to be here is you're kind of really thinking about that at the house by house level of the impact of your work. So I just want to say thank you for doing that. This is kind of like the quiet head down work of government that improves lives that I think should be celebrated more. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Any other comments, Member Padilla?
Yeah, I would like to echo my colleagues in thanking APCD staff and also in Miami and everybody else on this accomplishment. It's really great. She said the residences, so if there's 2, 3, 4 people living in there, that's a lot of people, and that's great. And I would like to move that we approve the report.
Also,
Moved and second, moved by Medina, second by Gomez.
Gloria,
Or,
Whatever the chair.
whatever she wants.
I didn't hear very Gloria, I'm sorry. I'll make a quick comment. We first heard this report in the planning policy committee meeting, and at that time, I couldn't figure out how to celebrate because usually these days in this culture we use fireworks, and I thought APCD should be involved in fireworks and things that explode in the air. But I think it is an accomplishment for several reasons. It is this board, this new embodied governance that made our rule consistent with other APCDs from 10 cases per million, whereas it was 100 cases per million. It was the old rule. So we did that not that long ago. And for you to see results within 3 years, I thought my comment was that in government, that's not bad. That's really pretty quick. We have essentially, if we average, let's say 3 people per household just in the residences, that's 3,000 people that have significantly less cancer risk. So I think that's pretty good, as well as the businesses and the park. So I think to be able to do that, we're going in the right direction, and we did it within 3 years. In government, that's not bad. And so I got to thank my colleagues, APCD staff, the legislation that helped us get to this point. All of that put together made this happen. So I think I want to congratulate everyone in our efforts to do this. I hope this is going to continue, right? And we have a map now that shows overlapping hotspots. And I think that's the next level. How are we going to deal with communities in which there's 2, 3, maybe 4 hotspots that one residence is subjected to? So how are we going to address that And that may take more work, but to me, that's the next steps we can take now that we have this tool and make this happen. So in the case, with that, we can go ahead and take the vote. I'm gonna do a roll, not a roll call, but just a straight vote again. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstention? None.
Thank you. With members Lawson, Weiner, Sanchez, and Vargas absent, that motion stands with those board members who are present voting aye.
Great. Going to go on to E3, which is program spotlight monitoring and technical services. And note this item is for information only. There's no votes that should be taken at the end. Clerk, will you please give us instructions for public testimony?
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask any members of the public that are joining us here in the conference room that wish to address the board on this item to please complete a speaker slip and submit it to me at this time. Those members of the public that are joining us virtually, I would ask that you would use the public testimony instructions that are on your screen. You can use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or press *9 now to indicate that you wish to speak. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Okay, for staff presentation, Domingo, to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Good afternoon, board members. I'm very excited to be here today to do another one of our spotlights. Today, we're going to focus on the Monitoring and Technical Services Program or division. And one of the key functions of this division is monitoring air. And so today, we're going to do a little bit of a show and tell through a video just to help go through the process of how we monitor air in the region and in some of our environmental justice communities. But before we move into the video, I would like to give kudos to Melina Mesa, to David Soderman, and to Kevin Bradley from our staff who worked very hard on this video, and I think they did a really good job, which you will get to appreciate. So with that, I'll just turn it over very quickly to my colleague Melina. Thank you.
Thank you, Domingo. Thank you, Domingo. I just want to add that we do understand that a lot of these air quality topics are very challenging to understand and they can seem shrouded in mystery. So instead of going through some slides, we're doing it in a different style. And so I just want to add that we're going to continue developing materials like this to make all of these topics a lot easier to understand for the public and then make them available. Thank you. And also I had really great actors in this video.
We'll go to
Okay, we're Today.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
We have a lot of time to
see about a third of our staff works in this division, so it takes a lot of work and a lot of people to, to manage our monitoring networks. And so like Melina shared, this is a tool that we wish to promote through our website, through our social media, so that folks get a little bit more information and help understand some of the work we do. So we just wanted to showcase that for you today, and I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Domingo. Do we have any public testimony on this item?
Thank you, Chair Shu. We have one member of the public that wishes to address the board on this item. I would call for it now, Mr. Cesar Javier. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and please use the timer that will be on the slide.
Bear with me. All right. That's a toxic emission from technology. Our Guinness pig that is happening in our community must be addressed if we are really meant to implement, execute the mission. I am a Boy Scout. When I was given an order, cross that mountain, I have to do it because it's an order. It is a moral order. I have to cross there to save people from drowning. I did. There is no need of research or empirical approach to follow the order. But when the code enforcement, the equivalent of compliance from the APCD says, okay, I will refer you to Air Pollution Control District, very easy solution. Because he cited, oh, that is, the investigation says no violation because it is exempt. So why should we investigate? Exempt from regulatory standard, which means the owner, by virtue of deception or whatever, the name of the business is non-metallic mineral manufacturing. He did never put that kiln operation. So the poor treasury, okay, you pay $38. Go and poison the neighborhood, metaphor. Please, let's do something. Let's nip the bud and let us not it grow to cancer. That's the essence of my input here in program Spotlight. We have to spotlight the growing menace, the growing emission. It's easier, and we can report that to the state and federal. And they will surely believe, like Mr. Dentino of District 9, we believe the investigation of Air Pollution Control District. I'm sorry, sir, it's bad. It's really, I know we sympathize. I cannot help you in the step-by-step policy change procedure as ordered by the chief of the District 9. This is what I mean of action. We have principle of mass, we have principle of maneuver, we have the principle of objective, we have the principle of security, we have the principle of annihilation, just like the Russians. If they go to war, they will annihilate us all. This is the same war.
Mr. Javier, your time is concluded.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Please, let's slow down. We support this, but let's make more sharper, effective, efficient. Thank you, sir, for listening.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from any of our board members? Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you. I appreciate the video. I'm a visual learner and I love sharing the work and the committees that I'm on. So you're making it easier for me to share with my constituents. So I appreciate it, and I would love to see more videos of the kind of work that we do so that people understand and know what we do. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a quick question. I think it was mentioned that the monitoring is not funded by any permit process. So what is our various funding sources for this monitoring program?
It is mostly grant funded. So a large part of it is from grants from the EPA and also from the state level. And then some portion of it we cover internally with DMV funds.
Yeah, the bulk of it would be coming from the DMV registration fees.
So essentially, the availability of the MP funds is actually increasing as we increase the permit process. So that's more of that is becoming available.
That's correct. So as we move towards maximum cost recovery on stationary sources, we're putting less and less of DMV funding into the engineering and compliance divisions. So there is more available.
Great. Do we have a rough count on number of stationary ones versus mobile monitoring stations? I saw that one time, but I'm kind of curious where we are now.
All of our stations, we have approximately 10 monitoring stations that serve our regional network and approximately 6 community monitoring sites. None of those are mobile, all of those are stationary, but the community sites have less equipment. They're more they're not as robust as our regional sites.
But we have some ability to move them without too much effort, like, because they can work independently without a.
Unfortunately not. The ones that, actually, let me add to that. The ones that are more movable are our sensors. Sensors, we currently have 6 sensors in the Tijuana River area. They're all currently placed in the San Isidro fire station where we have a monitoring station there, and with the plans of placing those throughout the Tijuana River Valley, we're currently working on agreements with some of our partner agencies so that we can place those sensors. The sensors are more movable, but not so much the actual monitoring sites.
Great, thank you. Member Bush.
Yes, on the sensors, how are those sensors funded?
Those are funded through an EPA grant that we received for this project specifically.
Okay, because so the sensors in the Tijuana River Valley, are they also monitoring the I'm not sure all the chemicals and health, it's very nuanced. So I remember reading at the county level that the county health department didn't find a correlation of data. There's still a lot of data to come over, and I think I've heard disagreements from officials from Imperial Beach about the county's staff's conclusion to things, and I don't know how that shakes out, but could you tell me more about?
Sure, so the pollutants that we're measuring or the compounds that we're measuring with the sensors are sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, NOx, and some meteorological parameters as well. Hydrogen sulfide is the main compound that's causing the odors. And so we share that data on a monthly basis. We meet with the public health department in the county to share the data and to let them know what we're finding. And then, if we find levels at an elevated where we have a concern, then we would be communicating that to them as well. For the most part, we have been finding some of the the levels are the level of the compound is at a point where people can smell it, but not so much at a level where it's causing a health concern.
Okay, I think that's more what I'm trying to get at is, have we invited the mayor, council members, city of Imperial Beach or District 8 officials to these meetings, just so they know and they have updates about these air monitor the data?
Correct, we have actually presented to their city council in Imperial Beach, and we've been presenting to a number of other groups where those officials have been present as well.
And are those chemicals, that sounds exhaustive, but is it covering all of the potential chemicals that are causing all of the odor impacts?
For odors specifically, we're looking at sewage, odors from sewage, and so hydrogen sulfide would be the compound of concern there. There could be, dozens and dozens of other compounds that might be emanating from the river, but we can't really know. The complaint that we receive are mainly for the sewage odor, so that's a compound that we're focusing on.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that, and yeah, if we could just stay on this, because it's, I've had conversations with the Imperial Beach officials, it's definitely a crisis level, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely, and actually, we're working with City of Imperial Beach to place one of the sensors at City Hall. So we're in very close communication with them to collaborate.
That's what we appreciate.
Okay. Hi, Domingo. I had a question. Where are you getting the numbers on health impacts of these levels? Like, where is this information coming from?
Sure, we're looking at CARB standards and also OSHA standards.
Okay, so that's what their standards are, but that doesn't necessitate that it isn't causing any health impacts.
Sure.
It's just, that is what the regulatory levels are, if I understand it correct.
Correct, and we do get reports from the community as far as impacts, even, that some of them are experiencing headaches or nausea or just even, impacting their quality of life. So we also don't want to, we want to be mindful of that and definitely keep an eye on it so that anything that we can do to support fixing the problem, we can help advocate for it.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that these are regulatory standards and not necessarily what the community is complaining about. And then we're also not looking at the additive effects of things, because we're looking at hydrogen sulfide as a set piece. We're looking at NOx as a separate set piece. We're looking at, what was the other one? NOx.
Sulfur dioxide.
Sulfur dioxide. So we're not looking at the cumulative effects of all of these things together and what those health impacts are. So CARB may have sulfur dioxide, may have nitric oxide, and may have the hydrogen sulfide. Boy, I'm a doctor and still having trouble with them. But we're not, I think it's very important for the board members here and for anybody in the community that's listening to this to note that these are regulatory standards. These are not like what the community is feeling, nor is it the additive effects to the people in this community. So sorry, I know you mentioned that, but I want to make sure we bring that home.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for that one.
I really appreciate Member Garcia for that extra details. I'm so glad we have doctor, a health advocate here, because there's just a lot of, for me, there's a lot of gaps in understanding. So even that part, I was gonna ask a question, and I thought, I don't understand even the question I'm asking, but that was the part on thresholds. What is that I would like us, I mean, it's not part of the action now, but just moving forward to look at those thresholds and collecting, are we collecting data on the health, on the number of folks going to the hospital that are complaining about issues, or I shouldn't even say complaining, but just a word for it, but that are reporting the issues that they're having with health. Because that, to me, that yes, it's anecdotal evidence, but it's still strong evidence in the absence of updated or regulations on these chemicals. Like I think some of it, the Clean Water Act, someone was telling me today, is from 1942 at the end of the day. So a lot of this hasn't been updated in a while, and I think sometimes what a lot of the community members, what they shared with me, they feel, because I don't live down there, but I really hear and feel what they're saying is they don't feel heard, that they feel like the county or the public agencies are telling them, nope, there's no issue because it doesn't meet this threshold or standard. And I would like us as an agency to be very, very careful about any communication that comes across as dismissive. and I know you all are, so I appreciate your sensitivity when you're dealing with these, but I hope that we continue to work on this and refine the methodology or the standards, because even if, you know, we're not meeting particular thresholds on this air monitor, then there's still a gap that we need to take time to work through.
No, absolutely. Just to respond to your question about data, the public health department is collecting data on any reported illnesses from the community.
Any other comments? I have one added item, and perhaps one of you can answer this, or Dr. Berwick covers here, and that is sensitivity levels at these standards doesn't really take into account the individuals and then the degree of sensitivity they may have. So I would think that those with respiratory diseases may have a different threshold. I imagine children may have a different threshold. Some people are more sensitive to smells and to the quality of life than others. So I'm almost thinking that another way to approach it is also the number of complaints as well. So just the sheer number of complaints itself by people saying, I'm not feeling good today because of this odor. I mean, that itself can also be a data point that causes action. The last question I have is there a plan that can address this as if there is a threshold that is met? What actions can take place? Now, for Tijuana River, I think it's this, we may not have a lot of control over what's coming down the river. But there are other recourses to take, including an outside, when we have a little severe instance like we had with the fire at one of our ships burning, evacuation. So and a relocation during particularly bad is that something that's being thought of?
Sure, an air quality advisory would be one of the instruments that we would use to get information out there if there were levels of concern for the particular compounds that we're monitoring. And we would also be collaborating with the public health department so that if there are any actions from their standpoint that they can also take to assist the community, we are working collaboratively. But from our standpoint, an air quality advisory would be probably the only thing that we could do immediately if we were to see any of those elevated levels. But at the end of the day, it really all comes to addressing the source of the problem.
Great, thank you. I note that we've passed 5 o'clock. We were supposed to go into a public hearing on our budget at 5. That obviously is going to be delayed, and we'll continue with our meeting that we have here now. Any other comments on this item from my fellow board members? If not, we can go to the next item, which is our report from the Air Pollution Control District officer.
Thank you, Chair Shu and board members. I'll keep my comments brief. I have a few quick items to report. And first, I'm looking towards the back of the room. If Heidi Gabriel Pack would stand up and just wave. I'd like to introduce you to our new council, Heidi Gabriel Pack. She is new to the role of council, just started last Friday. So Ada is going to be sitting with the board for this meeting and probably the next one. We're really fortunate because Heidi's not new to the district. She's been with us for over 20 years in kind of stealth mode as a lawyer. So we're very fortunate. She's worked in the compliance division, in our emission reduction strategies division. And so she's going to be now bringing her skills into our lawyer role. So just wanted you to meet her, and you'll see her at future meetings. Next, I announced at the March governing board meeting that we opened the Electric Landscape Equipment Assistance Funding, ELEAF, that's the acronym, ELEAF, go team, program for small businesses seeking to replace their existing commercial combustion lawn and garden equipment with cordless zero emission electric alternatives. The good news is that the program was an even bigger success than we anticipated, and demand has already exceeded the $3 million that we had allocated to this program in just 2.5 months. So that is a terrific problem to have. That's a lot of equipment that is getting swapped out, a lot of commercial landscapers who are going to be able to benefit, and not only for their own health, but also for those they serve. And so they have traded in over 3,600 pieces of gas powered equipment for new electric versions. And we're now working with participating dealerships to ensure that all of the incentive funds are reimbursed and evaluating the program for enhancement opportunities should we identify additional funding to continue it. But I would like to thank the 19 dealers who made the program possible, SD Sequel, Uniradio and Radio Latina for their help publicizing the program, and our staff, especially Eric Luther, Nicole Hathaway, Bergen Tomlinson, Andrea Rios, and Eva Barnes, who went above and beyond to make sure that that program was a huge success. So, and thank you. I know several of you may have also pushed it out through your social media. Thank you so much. It was a huge successful program. Next, I wanted to report back that last month, Melina Mesa and I joined the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual mission to Washington, DC, to join other agencies and leaders to advocate for resources to be directed to the San Diego region. And during the trip, we had the opportunity to connect with other agency leaders, elected officials, meet with the Secretary of State's office, members of the EPA, Department of Energy, and many others to identify collaboration opportunities and advocate for air quality. And as our legislative program continues to develop, we'll continue to seek additional collaboration activities as well as have a stronger presence in legislative activities. The next item to highlight for you is that next week I will be presenting along with our deputy directors at the 40th Annual Environmental Training Symposium and Conference hosted by Industrial Environmental Association. And Chair Hsu will be providing remarks at the plenary session that morning. We have been a presenter at this conference, SDAPCD, for probably most of its history, if not the entire 40 years it's been going on. It's the training and networking at the conference is a great resource for local companies to enhance their compliance. And so we congratulate IEA on their 40th year of hosting this conference. And then I want to highlight a change that you all may notice in your constituencies may call to your attention. This is a change in the Air Quality Index, or AQI. And this is EPA's index for reporting air quality. So a lot of times when you get on your phone and you see a little green dot that reports the AQI number or yellow dot, that's what we're talking about. And it's used to inform the public how polluted the air is based on a scale that ranges from 0 to 500. With 0 being good and 500 being hazardous. And so as you'll recall, in February, US EPA changed the fine particle standard, the PM 2.5 standard, lowering it by 25%. And so on May 6th, EPA revised the AQI, the Air Quality Index accordingly. And so even though local air quality hasn't changed, the scale by which it's measured has. So you will start to see more yellow days in the moderate category, potentially in some areas. And so if you get questions about this, and if we can provide any more information, let us know. Those numbers are always on the front page of our website. So we do keep those really obvious for the public, but you may get questions about it. And then finally, I just want to re-emphasize the invitation I sent you all last evening to attend our All Cans meeting next week at Felicita Park in Escondido. This year we'll be welcoming a guest speaker on neurodivergence and showcasing many of the highlights and accomplishments our terrific team has had over the last year. So with that, I will conclude my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments from board members? If not, we want to report by our planning policy committee report by Enrique Medina.
Thank you, Chair Hsu. Meeting on April 25th, we covered most of the same agenda items that we did today, in addition to a couple of informational items. One was the proposed budget for the county for the fiscal year 24-25, which will come before this group. And we also had an update on the warehouse working group addressing the indirect source rule. And other than that, concludes my report.
Great. Before I go to adjournment, I want to give a quick report. On April 4th, I wrote a letter to a assembly committee with regards to AB 2783 by Assembly Member Alvarez. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is I wrote this letter as an individual public elected official, not in the capacity of serving on this board, other than the fact that I know something about air pollution and particularly the MCAS, which APCD is involved in. My suggestion was that that piece of legislation be amended to address implementation of the MCAS, and that the Port District be required by this legislation to put 5% of their general budget towards implementation of the MCAS. And then if they do not meet the goals of the MCAS by 2030, that they double that effort. And this is after I did a fair amount of work studying the MCAS and the Port District's budget. In case the reason why I'm bringing this up now is in case anyone gets confused whether or not I did this as trying to represent APCD. I did not. It was only because of my knowledge of these documents, and that APCD is, of course, well participated, maybe even co-authored that piece of that plan of the MCAS, and so that it was that information that I used to offer that comment to that piece of legislation. That legislation is continuing through the process, and I may make additional comments as it moves forward. Any questions on that? So, comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, I really appreciate you doing that advocacy for clean air, and I personally really like the idea, and I think it's something that we should discuss more as a board, because there's absolutely an APCD connection to all this. I also want to report to the board, give an update on what's happened this past Tuesday. Our city council voted to remove Sandy Naranjo, who was our city's representative to the port. She was the only environmental justice advocate. She was actually a former BHC staffer, and also the only queer Latina. So I don't think it's that's a coincidence. We talk about environmental racism. I think that's it right there. Staring us right in the face. She was the single greatest advocate for clean air and health, and not just for National City, which has some of the highest rates of asthma and cancer, especially in OT&C on the west side. But she also advocated really strongly for Imperial Beach and all the sewage crisis we just talked about. City of San Diego, neighborhoods like Bart Logan. And just really quick, the couple of items that she hung out with, because I don't think this gets covered enough. She was the lead and instrumental on the adoption of the Maritime Clean Air Strategy that was adopted in October 2021. She increased the Maritime Industrial Impact Fund, and that was the funding that has been used to pay for air filters. The Mitsubishi Cement Corporation, that was an issue that our staff, it didn't come to the board level, but our staff was great at staying in front of that proposal, which there was a lot of issues that went directly and counter to the MCAS. And Sandy was actually responsible for pulling the consent item and questioning that. And eventually the proposal was just withdrawn after so much scrutiny and the advocacy of EHC. And she was absolutely removed in retaliation for these efforts, for her advocacy for clean air, for environmental justice, for asking questions, and for supporting the port reform. And I could just tell you from my side, our city was definitely bullied and threatened into removing her by commissioners, by staff, and among others. And we've been going through this ever since the what I think was illegal and definitely improper censure that violated her due process back in October. And so I do ask, if it's going to planning committee or it needs to be a special meeting, depending on the timing of this legislation, because it is moving forward. I think it's going to appropriations next, but I do ask that our board discuss this on a future agenda item, and there's absolutely a nexus to it. Not just the accountability and transparency, which I think we should always support that, but especially for agencies, like the port, that we directly work for. And let's remember, guys, we're, at the end of the day, we are a regulatory agency. And that's our job, is to hold polluters, anyone that causes pollution, accountable. That does include the landlords, that there's pollution on their lands. And we're working with the port, a lot of items, ISR, MCAS, many others. And I want us to continue to do that, have a productive relationship. But we also shouldn't be bullied. We shouldn't be intimidated or politically scared to take positions that are against them and have them say, oh, well, if you guys do this, we're going to pull out on the MOU or whatever. No. We really need to stop that. I've seen that happen. I've seen them do that to nonprofits and others. So I would like that discussion brought back. I just want to remind us all, we were created by state action, and this is a proposed state action. So AB 2783 is a proposed state action. We wouldn't be where we are today had it not been for AB 423 and that state action. So again, I really like Jack's idea that I think we should discuss on MIF fund. So I want to bring that back. But our current position is basically neutrality. And that should be a position, I think, with so many issues going on. I want to remind everyone, and to quote, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor, and I don't want us to do that as an agency. Thank you.
Aren't any other comments? I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, but let me make some quick announcements here. We will reconvene we'll take a 5-minute break. So we'll reconvene for the budget meeting hearing at 5:21. That's give us 5 minutes. So 5:20, we'll do a 5-minute break here. Our next regular meeting of the governing board will be held on June 13th. 2024 at 2 p.m. I think the location will be back here again. So we're adjourned now for 5 minutes before the budget meeting.